If you're somebody who likes to eat red meats, say what you want online, drive your car where and when you want to drive it, or if you simply want to use a form of money that doesn't steal from you, you should never live in the country that we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm actually not going to name this country until the end of today's video. I'm rather just going to look at many of the recent laws, regulations, and draconian bills that have been passed in this country in 2023. So let's get started. The first reason why I'm never going to be found in this country is the ridiculous cost of living. We can see here that to actually live in the major city of this country, it costs nearly 12 times the average person's income to buy that average home. So to add a little bit more color or context to this outrageous figure, if the average person earns around $50,000 per year, again, I'm not actually going to reveal what currency this country uses yet. So if you earn $50,000, that means the average home would be the equivalent of around $600,000. Now, some people might be saying, but Luke, that's the capital city of that country. Isn't it a little bit different for the rest of the country? Well, a little bit, but not too much. We can see here from this chart that the average for any home inside this whole country, it takes around 7 times the average person's average income to buy an average size home in the country. So cost of living, buying a home, it's impossible. It's very expensive. Okay, you're essentially going to be a debt slave in this country. But we can also see their electricity prices have risen from around $1,100 in 2021 to today being worth over $3,500. Okay, their electricity prices have gone up by more than 300% in only 2 years. Okay, so cost of living in this country is absolutely ridiculous, okay? And it's not something that I want to be putting up with. Now, the second reason you're not going to find me in this country is because of the very draconian laws they are trying to pass within this country. So this country wants to become the world's safest country online. That's their exact words coming from their very own government. And how are they going to do that? How are they going to be really nice and safe online? Of course, we have to remove all encrypted chats. The peasants should not be allowed to message each other privately. We, the government, need to see every single message. That's exactly what the government is literally trying to do in the country. This is why we have companies such as Signal, WhatsApp, and even Facebook all coming out to announce, look, we're actually going to have to leave this country because our encrypted chats cannot be used when this new law that this country is trying to push through is passed. I really love this headline here. It kind of sums it up. This country just passed an online safety law that could make people less safe. That's exactly what this encryption law is actually going to mean for this country, okay? So that's reason number 2. Online Orwellian madness. That's the second reason why you're not going to find me here. Third reason why you're never going to find me in this country is not because of the weather. Yes, it is very cold there and not very nice to live in, but it is actually due to a new law that they recently tried to pass in July 2023. We can see the headline here. This country's new bill is actually going to be used to seize crypto. That is, of course, used for crime, okay? All of these bills this country is pushing out in 2023, it's all to fight criminals, okay? Don't forget that. The government is trying to keep you safe. So we're not really going to get into the nuts and bolts of this headline. It pretty much reads for itself, okay? They're trying to seize Bitcoin and crypto. Simple as that. We're going to move on, and we're going to have a look at one of the more draconian ideas that this country has, and it is actually called these 15-minute smart cities, okay? Yes, that does sound like Klaus Schwab's wet dream, and we're going to get to the World Economic Forum connections that this country does have at the end of today's video, but in the capital city, they do have 15-minute smart cities. So what's so smart about this? And what is this strange idea? So this country is pioneering the world. They're saying, look, we have these 15-minute cities, and you might have heard of them before. Lots of people refer to them as smart cities, but this country believes that, look, we are an ultra low emission zone. They believe that they are tackling climate change with these 15-minute smart cities. So we can see here, to actually become a ULEZ zone, an ultra low emission zone, what happens is that if you are driving a petrol car that is older than 2005, you need to actually pay a fine for driving your car in the city. And if you are driving a diesel car that is older than 2015, you also have to pay a fine. So I believe in this country, they are paying around $12 per day every single day that car is caught and had its license plate scanned by one of these smart cameras that the country has rolled out and deployed. So when we actually run the numbers on this, we can see why this government believes that they are smart cities, because they're going to make a lot of money, okay? In the capital city of this country, there's 8 million people. So let's suppose that half of them, let's be conservative or somewhat grounded and say 4 million of these 8 million citizens drive their car every day around the city. And let's say they get caught by these cameras, which are everywhere, okay? There's over 4,000 cameras in the city. Now let's run some maths. So let's say 4 million people, they drive past one of these cameras and they have to pay a $12 fine for driving these cars that may not be very carbon friendly or emission friendly. Let's look at how much money that makes the government. So it means the government is making $48 million every single day if 4 million citizens get caught. Again, it's an assumption. Don't, fact check me out there. Send your fact checks to Bill Gates. He'll do those for you. And then we can actually see $48 million a day works out to be around $17 billion every single year just in the one capital city. So that is a lot of money, and that's probably why the government is calling it a smart city. It's smart for them, not smart for the everyday Joe who has just had his electricity prices jacked up by 3x in the past 2 years. So these cities aren't very smart for the everyday Joe and Jane or the everyday citizen who's already struggling to keep up with the cost of living. Who are they smart for? Well, to do that, we're going to have to reveal which country we're talking about, because we're going to listen to the words from the current mayor of this city. So of course, maybe a little drum roll we can do here before we reveal the country. We are talking about Britain. The former dominant empire of the world in the 20th century has now become a very interesting place that you will not find me. I am never going to live in Britain or the UK because of all of these things we talked about and because of the very strange things we are about to reveal. So the mayor of London, okay, the capital of England, is a fellow by the name of Sadiq Khan. And I think it's very interesting that, guess what? He's not only found on the World Economic Forum's page, but he is actually a agenda contributor to the World Economic Forum. So that means he actually contributes to the agenda that the World Economic Forum wants to promote. And this might actually help to explain why his city is becoming a little bit of a totalitarian nightmare. We can see here that he wrote an article on the WEF's website titled, "Why Cities Must Redress Injustice and Embrace the Climate Displaced." So I think this is really interesting. What does he mean by redress injustice? I think the real injustice here is the fact that the UK citizens are being slapped $17 billion every single year for driving a petrol car, when you have the Prime Minister and the President and the elites of the country getting on these massive private jets that guzzle all sorts of petrol and fossil fuels, and they fly to these climate events every single year. The hypocrisy is madness. But again, let's dive a little bit deeper. Are the UK citizens putting up with this madness in their country? Well, as we can see here, no. There is actually a group of citizens, or should we say vigilantes. These vigilantes actually call themselves the Blade Runners, and they're going around and they're chopping down all of these big cameras that are trying to take the photo of people's license plate and fine them that $12 every single day. So again, I'm not going to comment on this because you can probably tell how I feel about it, but we can see around 450 of the 1,700 cameras that have been put up have been chopped down or vandalized or taken to shreds. So again, I'm just going to put that one out there. I'm not going to make any comment on it. Something else I'm not going to make any comment on in Britain, and is just another reason why I will not ever be going there, is all of the really strange mandates and health measures that they are putting out there. So obviously they had one of the more draconian passport plans back in 2020, 2021, 2022, and they also have done some really strange things in the realm of health. Okay, UK cows, we can see from this headline here, could get methane suppressing products in efforts to reduce farm greenhouse gas emissions. Again, absolutely ridiculous. Cows don't cause climate change. They're just trying to demonize the consumption of red meat, okay? They don't want you eating the most nutrient-dense food that is going to make you a man. They want you eating those soy burgers that are just going to make you weak, and they're going to mess up your hormones if you're a man. That's what they want. They don't want men fighting a revolution against the government. They want weak little soy boys eating those veggie burgers. That's exactly what the government wants. And just across the ditch from UK, we can actually see their neighbor island, Ireland, has actually come out and tried to kill or slaughter 200,000 cows in an attempt to meet EU climate change goals. And even Elon Musk torched the island government for this ridiculous law. Again, I'm going to try to remain neutral and not have an opinion on that, but I just think that's ridiculous. Simple as that. And while we're talking about the EU climate change measures and why Britain, an independent country, is going along with this would actually be a perfect little time to pivot into talking about one of the last reasons why I will not be going to Britain. And that is the fact that one of their most famous politicians, who was actually instrumental in getting the UK out of the EU in 2016 in that Brexit movement, was Nigel Farage. And what recently happened to Nigel Farage? Well, he had a bank account for over 35 years and he was a great citizen. He's obviously got a fair bit of money. He's a politician. He was never overdrawn his account, but he got debanked for literally saying things that the bank was not a fan of. He got debanked because of his political views. Now, while we're talking about very popular political figures in the UK who are not allowed to speak the truth in their country, let's actually remember what happened to Liz Truss, okay? She was the Prime Minister of England for a whopping 47 days until she was replaced by a World Economic Forum puppet, Rishi Sunak. Now, this is just yet another example of a prime minister who says something that goes against this World Economic Forum or Davos narrative and agenda that just gets swiftly outed, okay? Because she was a plan of actually reforming Britain's economic system, okay? We're not going to go really deep down that rabbit hole today, but I do want to quickly play you a clip from their new prime minister. Of course, that, is the man Rishi Sunak.
Today, I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency, the group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
Public policy principles. What exactly does that mean? Sounds a little bit scripted to me, but I would also like to point your attention to something else he said. He's talking about the G7 having the most advanced economies, okay? This kind of ties into how I want you to actually think about these countries like Britain, but as well as many of these other countries in the West, okay? Think of your Australias, your Canadas in particular, the blue states in America, and many of these other nations in Europe, okay? I don't think we should think of them as these advanced economies, okay? I actually prefer to think of the world as kind of divided between ascending countries and descending countries. So the descending countries include the West, okay? They have too much debt. The government's simply going to have to print a bunch of money, raise inflation really high to inflate away that debt. And as citizens leave the country because they're not a fan of these 15-minute smart cities, or in California's case, paying $1,200 to transgender people, all of these smart and wealthy people are going to leave the country, go and live in somewhere like Latin America or maybe Asia, maybe somewhere where their money is treated best. And what the governments are going to have to do is raise taxes even higher than they already are. So I think it is going to create this kind of self-perpetuating feedback loop in the West. And that's why me personally, I've been on the road for nearly 2 years now. I left Australia because I know things are only going to get worse there. And I think it's the same for America, Canada in particular, the UK, and many of these European countries, okay? So that's kind of my framework for the world. I would prefer to live in an ascending country like El Salvador, a country that's opting out of what the rest of the world is doing and doing something new, doing something that might actually work, and doing something that is actually going to respect the rights of its citizens. Let's embrace Bitcoin and actually lock up the criminals. Don't give the criminals money and let them out of prison like they're doing in California. That just creates an absolutely broken society. And I know what some people are thinking, okay, it's only really El Salvador and these very small countries in Latin America and Asia that are kind of posturing themselves towards Bitcoin. But what if I told you the largest country in the world by population and second by GDP had actually also done a Bitcoin backflip? Well, that's exactly what I think has actually happened. China recently came out and they actually said, look, We know we banned Bitcoin in 2021, but now the digital currency is actually going to be respected as legal property in the country. So if you want to learn a little bit more about China's Bitcoin backflip, you can check out the video that we recorded on that topic. You can find a link to that one right there. And with all that said, let me know in the comments down below, is the UK the most unlivable country in the West? I think Canada gives them some pretty good competition, I'm not gonna lie. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed the video I popped up on screen right there. I will see you all in the next one.